So I welcome you all on behalf of Association of Muslim Professionals to the AMP Webtalk. AMP stands for Association of Muslim Professionals, and it is a non-profit organization. It is registered in India, United States of America, United Kingdom, and Australia. AMP has completed its 12 years in serving our community in the field of education, employment, and empowerment. AMP has a vision to positively impact lives of 10 million people by the year 2030. AMP's mission is to empower the underprivileged for the greater benefit of the society and nation as a whole. AMP's vision is to be a model community which is advanced in education, socially progressive, culturally vibrant, politically influential, and economically dynamic. So what AMP has achieved in these past 12 years is right in front of you all in the slide. You can just have a quick look at it so that you can understand our achievements, our projects, and what activities we do under these projects. So as you can see that we have a project on school development programs. We call it SDPs. We also have employment assistance cell. We call it EAC. We have a project on scholarships and self-employment. And AMP also got its resource center. We also do awards and partnerships. So these are our main flagship projects where we work towards benefiting our community and nation. Apart from that, AMP's presence is as such. On ground, AMP got more than 100 active chapters. We are present in 25 states and 16 countries with more than 6,000 active members and volunteers. In AMP's online presence, we have 125 members and professionals who are connected to us through various social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Google Groups, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, and Twitter. At any point of time, if you wish to join Association of Muslim Professionals, you can just log on to www.ampindia.org/joinamp, and we will be glad to have you on board with us. All right, so now I'm sure all who are present here must have got a fair idea about AMP and its working in the field of community welfare. Moving forward to the session, I welcome each one of you once again on behalf of Association of Muslim Professionals to the AMP Webtalk today. I'm Humaira Kabir, I'm your host today, and I'm working as Operations Manager at AMP USA. Along with me, we have Mr. Saeed Saab, who's the Director of Technology at Swift Learning Services. Mr. Saeed Saab has joined us from Hyderabad. And I would like to introduce you all to the speaker of today's session, Mr. Shah Siddiqui Saab, who's the CEO of Riyadh Academy. Mr. Shah Saab is a career coach, a training consultant, and a management faculty with more than 2 decades of experience in the area of management sciences. Mr. Shah Saab has joined us from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So about LMS and assessment, Mr. Saeed Bhai will be talking at the end of the session, inshallah. So those who have questions and issues related to LMS and assessments, I would request you all to please hold on to your queries till the session ends. After Shah Saab's session, we will be taking LMS related queries, inshallah. Please refrain yourself from texting and asking not related questions. For topic specific questions, we will be having a Q&A round after the session, after the Shah Saab's lecture as well, inshallah. So now I will request Mr. Shah Saab to proceed with the session. Thank you. Over to you, Shah Saab. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Ms. Humaira, and welcome back, everybody. I hope my voice and the video is clear.
Yes, sir.
So once again, I welcome you all. Thank you for joining in today, logging into the topic for today, the webinar, Leadership and Influence. And I hope you all had a wonderful Eid and a safe one. And back to our series. So the topic for today, as you all are aware, is the final topic. The last topic always comes last. So leadership influence will be our last topic of the series. And we will take a look at what we have done in the past and what leads us to the position or to the situation where we can assume some leadership roles, or if not, try to build and master those. So we will start out now with the chat box. If it's, I'm guessing it's enabled for you all to answer my questions as a pre-assignment. And before we get to the slides. So I'm gonna just type a small note here, making sure everyone can get it. All right, I can see it now. So let's take a look at leadership and influence. I hope this would sound like an intriguing topic to you all. The reason why I'm saying is for all the skills that we have learned so far, starting time management and so forth with our emotional component, we should be able to take a very good look at what leadership entails, what the theories are behind leadership, and so forth. So I'm going to start out with some basic questions, just so you all are introduced to the topic the way I perceive it, and then so forth. So to begin with, you may have heard of the saying, leaders are born, not made. So depending on whether you agree to it or not, we will look at it, but this is how leadership starts out. But then so much has developed, so much has been done in the past, and so much research, and the recent trends, have brought light, shed light into new types of leadership, the qualities, and the theory behind it. So we all know that leaders are, essential for our business understanding, for our management, and for our implementation, for our solutions, and for our prosperity. As you all know, leadership, the term leader comes from the basic reason, the need for the mankind. And the mankind, a man is a social animal, but we like to bound, and at the same time, we would like to implement social happenings, strategies collectively, for which we need to have something more than your individual self, something more than your individual being for providing the solutions. So the need, hence for the need for the leadership is evolved. So historically, there has been leaders, and there has been leaders with skills, and there has been skills that were inbuilt, that were inherent to these personalities. And that's how leadership evolved. And mostly we talk about military leaders in the past, the leaders who ruled the nations, or the head of the states, and so forth. And then there was also some component for diplomacy as leadership evolved. And then there were some additional theories relating to philosophers or great leaders like Aristotle, who I want to name once, and who came up with this famous theory of Ethos, Pathos, and Logos, which was nothing but, something that we have been doing in the recent past, something that we have especially been learning in the series, relating to credibility, relating to your emotions, and relating to your logic, your intellectual being. And back then, there were no iceberg models, as you have been introduced to. So in the times of Aristotle, if there was a seminar or a webinar on soft skills, then he would clearly have these components or these topics involved or added onto his famous theories. But we'll take a look at how these theories evolve based on their understanding of the leadership skills, abilities, and then the personalities that develop, and then how these skills were mastered. So we'll take a look at the historical perspective and what needs to be done, and most importantly, how you all can use your skills from the series that we have been going through, especially in the order that came in, with all the interpersonal and empath-related topic that we have dealt with towards your business decision making, and that would help you arrive towards your goal or a vision, which is synonymous to a leader. So these are the things that we will be talking about today. But before we get to that, I want to give you a little pre-assignment, as we would be I would not be having access to the chat box. So if you guys are ready for a few questions, answer it in the form of a yes or no, Y for a yes, N for a no. And then this will let you get an idea how we would be looking at the leadership from our perspective, from this approach. And once again, we would stick to our holistic approach, the strategic approach, and the systems approach that I have been talking about all through. All right, so the first question is, do you think the leaders are born and not made? Y for a yes and N for a no. And then, all right, I see the answers, mostly no. All right, it don't matter whether you write a yes or no, because I'm going to support both theories, just so you all know. But if your answer is yes, then it means something that I will post towards the end of the questions. All right, second question. Do you think you can influence your colleagues, your coworkers, your supervisors, or even your friends and family members? Y for a yes and N for a no. All right, second question. All right, mostly why, great. All right, great, that's great. All right, so the second question is clear. The third question is, do you think employees, all right, I'm gonna give you a few more seconds if you would wish to write. All right, so it's all Y for yes, which means that you all believe in the theories, and you all can or have been influencing people, because influencing is the newer aspect of leadership quality that we would focus towards the end of the webinar. All right, the third question is, do you think the employees at the workplace or your colleague would need to be respected, would need to be listened, would need to be given a thought, or would need to be given due consideration, and would need to be taken care of their requirements? The Y for yes and N for no. I'm sure this will all be yes. All right, mostly yes. Why? Okay, great. Y for a yes. All right, we got a few more seconds. Go ahead. All right, it's more than 15 Ys I can see. All right, that's the end of the third question. The last question would be, do you feel that you have any followers, or you feel that you are easy to grab any followers? It could be any follower on the social media, or anybody who listens to you at the workplace, or anybody in the family. I'm bringing family and friends too. So if you think you have followers, Y for a yes and N for a no. In other words, your character, if it's convincing, if it's always being taken, in a positive manner with no prejudice, is what I'm asking. Y for a yes, N for a no. All right, so it's all yes. All right, great. It's all yes. All right, so these 4 questions mostly had a Y for a yes answer. So with this, I'm going to congratulate you all, as you already have seen leadership from the right perspective, and you all stand as leaders today, especially with all the stuff that you have learned and all the experience you have gained and all the education you have developed. And then this also means that you understand the leadership traits, you understand the leadership qualities, and then the principles of leadership that needs to be developed, that needs to be built on, and that needs to be mastered. So if you feel that, if you have answered a why to all these questions, then you have a leader inbuilt in you. The reason why I'm asking this is for leaders to know that they are leaders is very important. All right, so you all have to believe in your own leadership skills, in your own supervisory skills, and your own influencing skills, so as to have followers. Followers doesn't need to be really people following you, but people, under your brinkmanship, under your training, under your capacity, under your authority, or under your structure in terms of an organization. So the reason why I asked you these questions, I wanted to make sure that you all believe in your own selves, because many a time leaders have been born in adversity. Leaders are born, but you have to look at the circumstances they are born in. They are born in adversity, in hardship, and they would not realize the leadership skills, the position, unless they had a reason, a situation for which they had to rise to it. And when they rose, then they would realize how much of a leadership qualities they have. And that's when they realize how they could influence based on the feedback. And that's when they realize how many followers they had. And that's when they realize how positive and how productive you are. All right, so that completes our questions for today. And the good news is you all understand leadership, from the perspective that I have. although we will be looking at some controversial aspect of leadership. But the point here is you all get to the leadership role. The purpose of the soft skills seminar is employability, and more than employability, when it comes to soft as opposed to hard, you would need to prosper. You would need to stay put. You would have to be there for a sustained manner. And then this way you would have a fast track to your progression towards the topmost administrative position. I bring the word topmost administrative position because this is progression. This is how you would see yourself as rising, as standing up, or as getting to the level. So this is our topic for today, leadership. And as you all can see, you have a position now, a corporate position. Most of you have a corporate role, and you stand out as a corporate guy, as they say. All right, you have to be the corporate guy with the mechanics that you need, how you need to be smart and acting. But then once you get to a position up, you will see yourself not as a corporate guy, but as an influencer. So the corporation stays behind you and you will be projected as an influencer. So the point here is to get to the position where you can influence people. Okay, it could be any position. And then also to see the difference on how you can be ahead by influencing, which means that you're still a leader, but you would be able to delegate better as an influencer. So a good leader is a better influencer. And there is no leader who cannot be a good leader, but also an influencer. So there are many leaders in the world that we run into, but they lack leadership qualities. So we will see at how these theories have evolved and how we will get to this position where we can influence. In other words, we would have to look at terms like motivation, commitment, and flexibility. So all these important things are a way you can influence people, by which you'll be a good leader. A leader can order somebody to do a task done, but however, he cannot get the best out of them. So this is where the leadership stands out. So be a good leader, you have to be a motivator. Okay, you have to get the commitment. You have to get the attitude. You have to get the right flexibility. And then you have to be liking. So there's a lot of things related to your personality, the situation, and how your well-being is, how your social skills are, and how you are good at heart. Good at heart, yeah, that's one of the qualities, one of the chapters that you will do today about leadership and how they have to be good at heart, which means that you have to be personable, okay? And then it goes for. So to better understand leadership from the historical perspective, you would once again revisit your Iceberg model, although it may not be in the topics from today. But I would like to revisit your Iceberg model because we talked about the Iceberg model and we have been showing that, looking at it from the beginning. And then it talks about knowledge, skills, and capabilities. And there is something hidden underwater, which are the traits, the personal attributes. Now, these are the things that predict an employee's probable behavior. So to clarify, the statement, leaders are born and not made, goes well with one of the famous theories, which is known as the trait theory. And we talked about traits. And then we talked about sociological terms, where we have a major component relating to your emotional intelligence and your emotional quotient and your empath skills, or you as an empathic person. These are the things that differentiate a leader, okay? Now, the reason why I have to look at underwater, what's below, is to predict the probable behavior of employees, how a leader is coming. So if you are to believe in the trait theory where leaders are born, not made, then you would have to know that some traits that are hidden remain hidden until it emerges in a corporate role. So now these traits could be positive and negative. A positive trait will definitely make a person a great leader, right? Some of the leaders that we can talk about is anywhere from Alexander the Great, to all the way to Ratan Tata, I would say. He gave you civilization, for example, one leader. And one leader like Genghis Khan ravaged it. And then came Abraham Lincoln, who freed the slaves, brought freedom. Slavery was abolished. And then Tata Motors gave you the cheapest car. So these were the visions, and these were based on their traits that were inbuilt. But if there are some dark spots in your traits, that are hidden, that wouldn't be labeled anything until you are tested for it. Like in the recent past, we have talked about how psychometric testing is playing a major role in recruitment. It won't label you as a leader, but it will talk about your positives and negatives. So same as there are some dark spots built in you, hidden, and that leads you to a negative aspect to your leadership. And we have run into many, many negative leaders who brought about destruction. Okay, so this falls under the category of psychopathic leadership. Psychopathic leadership relates to some of these dark spots. However, there are a lot of psychopath leaders running around in the corridors of your company, your organization, the corporation, and they are leaders. However, they have this component of empathy or this component of emotional intelligence. We talked about it in detail, how they can modify it, how they can harness it, how they can use it for their own benefit. And this helps them in honing their skills and being where they are. So some positions require very aggressive, very strong sales and very pressure related skills. And these are the negative aspects that help. So both way it works. However, the important aspect is your emotional component, your empathy, and then your sensitivity, your flexibility, your adaptability, okay? And then your business acumen, and then your reliance, and then your resilience, and whatnot. Now, these are the sociological terms that I'm talking about. This will relate to one of the theories, the transformational theory. So with these aspects, you would know that leadership is not just, something built in, but can be built on, can be developed, and can be mastered. So if you have answered why for leaders are born, not made, then here's your answer, where the traits are found, inbuilt attributes that predict your behavior. And then for those of you who have answered an N for leaders are born, then you have this transformational theory, especially from our perspective, what we have been going through. We know that intelligence cannot be bought, okay? And IQ cannot be improved. However, an EQ can be worked on, can be brought up, and can be developed. So these are the things that, we would debate in the leadership webinar, and how we can get to influence. So to end it, summarizing it, we have to be more geared towards our empathy and more geared about our influence. And this is based on how you build on your rapport with your people around you. And then with that, you would be able to influence people by looking at their attitudes, by looking at their soft skills, and how you can build on or change in their attitudes, their behaviors, their commitments, their confidence, and their adaptability to your style. So it's a wide topic. There are hundreds and hundreds of videos. We will do our best today in our session, of what's left today. But you would definitely build on it as your journey towards leadership will begin now. And this is where, you end. This is where I want you all to continue until you get to the position. And then use all your motivational theory that we talked about. Use all your soft skills. Use all your sociological topic that we have talked on as we move on. So that's about it as an intro to leadership. And with this, I would like to have access to the screen so I can share the slides and get going. I'm not going to have access to the chat box, but I would look at it. And then before I forget, some of you had some answers in the chat box that I looked at after the session. So two questions that I had important from the motivational aspect were, if business acumen and empowerment is a motivator. This was a question, and some of you had it right, and some of you did not. So I repeat, is job enrichment and empowerment a motivator? Yes, absolutely, it's a motivator. The reason is the proof, it is not related to money, right? So we talked about in Herzberg's motivational theory that money is not on the top of the list. So anything that's relating to money is something that people do not like to do, but they do it for the reward. But if something that the employees would like to do is something what they really like doing, what they love doing, not for something they get paid. So your motivational aspect is the sequel to the leadership requirements that you have. And as an influencer, this is how you would motivate or get to the level of influencing. All right, is the slides okay?
Yes.
In the slideshow mode?
Yes.
All right, great. All right, let's get started. Take a look at what our first topic is. So it all starts out with our statement, and I'll give you an explanation if you would like to believe in leaders are born as opposed to leaders are made. All right, we did have a good introduction, so I'm going to skip this and look at the objectives. So if you pay attention, as you can see, we're talking about directing, coaching, participating, and delegating, and goals, planning, and personal attributes. So most of the topics have been dealt in great detail. So the last topic comes last, and let's look at the evolution of leadership. All right, so the leadership itself has not evolved, but our understanding of it has evolved. This is a great statement, as leadership was seen in the past. As leadership was taken for granted, but not anymore. And this is what negates the theory, the trait theory, which says leaders are born. There might be some reality to it, but then so much has evolved in the recent past, especially, the soft area that we believe in, how the organizations have evolved in becoming, tall to flatter hierarchies, how the customer focus is, taken now, and how the authority is autonomous, how there is freedom for decision making, and how there has been deregulation when it comes to corporate policies. So leadership evolved, and this is what we would look at, and this would negate some of the techniques that have been used in the past. And then here we will also look at the situational leadership as to how leadership, takes up the slot. How some leaders, especially in the military and in the army, how leaders were, asked to make the decision. It was a very quick decision to take up the position. And till then, they had no idea of the leadership skills that they had. And then we can look at some of the leaders, historical leaders, and how they evolved, and the recent leaders, how, they have evolved. And then leadership relates to vision. In our corporate era, the organization always talks about its mission to accomplish. And then there is vision that comes first. And you have to remember that vision is of the leader. Vision is always, from the leader. So whoever the leader is, the founder is, there has been a vision, that he had, that he would like to fulfill. And what comes after vision is the goal. Because goal is the way to expand and achieve the vision. So these were the evolutions, in theories of leadership. And this is how we come to our understanding of behavioral sciences, our understanding of human capital behavior, and understanding of, sustained advantage in the form of leaders and their followers. All right, it's defined differently. Take a look at this definition. So here in leadership, we're only talking about a direction and to influence a common goal, and then having people commit to an action and making them responsible to affirm on. So the highest level of leadership that you can look at is how to become an influencer, okay? How to align goals, how to have followers, and how to make everyone comfortable. And all the tricks of the trade that we have learned, from communication to motivation, is coming here. So one of the attributes of a good leader is how he would listen, and listening entails empowerment. So how he would empower employees by listening to them, more importantly, talking to them, and how he can empower them as opposed to, making it a leader-driven scenario. and how a leader can be flexible when it comes to the ideas and the input from the employees, and how he would be taking responsibility for anything that goes wrong, and especially when a deal dies, and when the deal closes in a positive manner, how he would give credit to his team. So these are the different underlying factors behind influencer, becoming an influencer. Characteristics of a leader, you can see it here. The topmost is honesty. When did we talk about honesty? We talked about when we were dealing with emotional topics, when we were dealing with empathetic, and when we were dealing about the top 10 skills, that leaders need to have. Anything else, is that I would focus here is, as you can see, is honesty and being unbiased, fair. So these are the characteristics of a leader. Now, every organization has its own view of leaders. Okay, every industry has its own definition of the leadership skills or the requirements for a leader or the traits of a leader. It varies. So if you look at the military, there are some different characteristics needed. And if you look at a not-for-profit organization, it's a bit different. But mostly they remain the same when it comes to your personal attributes as honesty, competence, and being unbiased, and more so. Imaginative is relating to your vision, how you can capture the imagination. All right, some of the principles required are here. You have to be technically strong. You have to know yourself and be continually learning. Look out for your employees. Set the example. And then how you would develop a sense of responsibility in your subordinates. So responsibility is based on one of the theories, the transformational theories. And there is a very famous model that we will go through now, the HB model, where you will see how giving responsibility to the employees is the highest level of attaining a leadership position. Historically, leaders have only been of three types: political, military, and religious. Okay, I'm sure you all agree to it. As you can see, there's a very ancient Greek figure here, because the philosophicals or the philosophy was of the Greeks, and then how they brought in different theories. This is also a point where if you look at some of the military leaders and how their preachings turned out to be, then you will also get a glimpse of how diplomacy was in the making, how some of the very famous military leaders wanted to win the wars by not using the swords or not using the weapons, but through a means of teaching, through peaceful means, or delegating their authority through different conveyors or ambassadors who would get to the message. So this is how diplomacy evolved, and diplomacy, or being a diplomat, is also a position that is highly specialized within your leadership role, or it's a highly specialized skill that's required to not just implement diplomacy, but also to understand what diplomacy is. And in today's world, we rely on diplomacy more than anything else as a leader. All right, so there are three theories of leadership to begin with. The first one is the great man theory. The second is the trait, and the third is the transformational. The theories of leadership are all based off these three theories. Now, the great man theory is based on the followings or the teachings or the happenings by few great men that we have seen in the history. And how do we look at this great man theories? By looking at their achievements. It starts once again all the way from Aristotle to Alexander the Great to Henry Ford, and I can bring it down to the later leaders, all the way down, whoever inspired a vision. And comes in between personalities like by, I would say, Steve Jobs, because some of his traits were known to people, and some of the negative aspects of him were also brought to light after he left us. So they say Steve Jobs is gone, but he doesn't know he's gone. He's dead, but he doesn't know he's dead. A lot of things to learn from the great man theory. So how would the great man theory help you understand leadership? It's very simple. You just look at them, you just read about them, you just do an in-depth research about them. And then you can learn a lot. And today we have everything available as a resource that you can learn from. So if you are inspired by psychological or physiological theories, like the motivational theory or the behavioral theory, then you look at those great scientists, the social scientists that came in, because it all evolved after the Industrial Revolution. You know, people came in, and how a great leader was an economic leader, not a military leader. So the economic leader came in later, who talked about productivity. So he was taken as the best leader. And then came those social scientists who brought about great leaders. And one of the other leaders that you can think of is Albert Einstein. Okay, he was a great leader. You know, he had excellent skills. And one of the skills that applies right now is he lived through the Great Depression. He lived through the last plague. And then if you look at his works, it seems that most of his outstanding papers and most of his achievements, which were awarded, were done during the 20th century plague. And that's where he was really using his time. So time management is something that he used in the era that we are in now. So that's exactly what it did. Social distancing, stayed at home and worked, used the time, just like you all are doing. So this is just an example, but the great man theory talks about all the big leaders from during the World War II, and then all the way to our corporate leaders. So any leader that you have, if you wish to believe in one of these theories, if you wish to learn from these theories, then you would look at each and every man and try to learn. Like just how we talked about in business writing, to imitate, in English conversation, to imitate by learning, right? To imitate to the highest level of spoken English or writing, near native. So the same way you can learn from the great man theory by learning from their biographies, reading the biography, doing research and whatnot. All right, so that's about the great man theory. The next is the trait theory, which is, as you can see, a sociological term. It relates to your EQ, emotional quotient index. This is nothing but a bunch of your traits, your personality traits, relating to your communication, your social graces, your friendliness, your nature. And then this theory literally takes that leader is born but not made. But once again, we learned the trait theory in the most recent fashion, where we have ways of extracting the hidden traits, and we have ways of how to modify and how to hone your emotional skills. So the soft skills is all about learning times, stress, emotional, motivational, and communication. What are these? These are traits that you're trying to have it infused in you by the right kind of training. So this negates your trait theory of leaders that are born, okay? Because now we have leaders that are built on their soft skills, like you all are on your way to get to the leadership position using your soft skills. So the trait relates to the sociological term. It relates directly to us. Now, I'm not gonna say that leaders are not born, okay? They were also born, because there are some leaders who have these inbuilt capabilities. All right, so the next one is the transformational leadership. Of course, this is a newer term. Every country is going through their national transformational program, okay? If every country wants to employ its own people and not hire foreigners, then this is a part of the national transformational program. And there's nothing wrong about it. So this is a newer term, right? So what this means is it talks about interpersonal skills, relationship, how to motivate, how to get involved, how to bring about the change. For the change, you need to have this vision that you need to realize. And the vision delegates goals. And we have a very convenient acronym for goal that we looked at, the SMART goal. So transformational leadership is about how the leadership will influence followers or will have people influence, not for the sake of influence and not for the sake of, not by ordering an influence. Because we talked about how a leader cannot get the best out of the man, although he can get a task done by the person, by the employee. So they say the best way to influence is not to influence anyone, if you can get what I'm saying. So the best way you can have somebody influenced by you is not to try influencing him, which means that don't do anything that you would like for him to listen to you. Instead, you listen and the person will learn from you, from your trait, from your behavior, from your leadership quality, and follow you. So there are no forced followers, although they are in the social scene that we are into. But actually, there are no forced followers. So the best way to influence somebody is not try to influence them. So transformational leadership is all about how or what we are doing. All right, let's summarize this with
Julie and Mindy had worked side by side for over 5 years. When the company restructured, Julie was given a management position and Mindy became her subordinate. Mindy felt that it was unfair that she now had to take instructions from Julie and was not 100% on board. Julie understood that it would take time to earn back Mindy's respect. She kept a positive attitude when working with Mindy and always kept Mindy informed on things that were relevant to Mindy's job. She assigned tasks to Mindy that she knew Mindy could accomplish, and she gave appropriate feedback when work was delivered. Julie took responsibility for her decisions and didn't blame others when things went wrong. Over time, she gained Mindy's respect and the department's productivity soared.
all right, so the leaders would have to be having a positive attitude. More than that, they have to be heartfelt with their employees. You have to feel, and then you have to be more flexible. You have to be broader. You have to be good at heart. All right, so that's self-explanatory. We'll take a look at situational leadership. As the situation arises, so does the leadership position. Sometimes you take up the situation, you take up the leadership position, and then you are a leader based on a situation. But there is a famous model here, which is known as the Hersey-Blanchard model that we would look at when it comes to situational leadership. Okay, situation is in an organizational context where you have people, employees that have been hired, okay, that are being trained, that are being motivated by their team leaders or by their supervisors, and how they will gain experience based on the situations till they get to their own leadership position. So this four-point model is very important here. It's very simple actually, and it starts with 4 items. On the right below block, you put 4 boxes in a square, and you will see how telling is on the right bottom, and then it goes up to selling, participating, and delegating. So these are the 3 steps towards situational leadership, and it's very easy to understand based on these 4 steps. So as I said, the telling is the first step on the right block of a square. So here, the leader is talking or telling the employees, which means that the employees are of low confidence level, low confidence level, and the leader is in leader is driving the process, which means that it's a highly leadership driven phase where the employees take up the learning from a leader. So the leader is highly committed and it's driven by him, and there is no relationship with the employees. So in the first phase of the situational leadership, which is known as telling, you have to understand that the leader is driving the force and the employees are low impact, low competence, low confidence, and mostly a low profile, and they are getting to that position. So this step is mostly driven by the leader. And as it goes up, the second step is selling, which is the followers or the team mates who are being assigned the task have developed some competence and some commitment. So it's a low competence and low commitment. And there is no relationship, and there is no relationship in the sense there is no interpersonal aspect of leadership in here. At the same time, this is a leader-driven process. Once again, the leader is in charge. He's highly committed, he's responsible, although people as employees are getting to the phase where they follow and have low confidence and low competence. The third one is participating. This is where the scenario or the rules change, where it becomes from a leader-driven to an employee-driven, okay? Employees are now competent and confident and have the levels, the skills. However, they are not fully in charge of taking the ball and run with it, which means that they cannot be delegated to go forth, okay? So it's not yet fully committed, which means that the employees are not committed, and there is some relationship in the form of trust. So the leader or the supervisor is gaining the trust as you go through this phase, as you evolve. You may have noticed this in your own progression, where you realize that your supervisors have gained some confidence in you, and you have now achieved the competence, and you have now achieved the confidence. Although your supervisor may say that you are competent, you are skillful, however, there is no relationship, such that he can delegate the task, he can give you the task. So there is somewhat inconsistencies, and the employees are not fully committed. The last stage in the leadership process by Hersey Blanchard is delegating. This is the last stage where you would like to be in. So this is a fully follower, employee-driven phase, and there is relationship that has been developed, and the employees are fully committed, highly competent, and self-confident as well. So they are ready to take the project and go with minimal supervision. So this is how you would understand. This is so you all can get to the leadership position, or get to the relationship where you would have, your understanding. Your relationship is interpersonal with your leader. And what we learn from here is how you would understand the steps and the time taken.
Jackie became frustrated with her staff members. She said to her manager, "I feel I'm putting in 120%. I'm exhausted." Paulette frowned a little. "Whenever I hear that, I feel like perhaps the manager may not be delegating the right way." Jackie admitted, "I give a lot of detailed information and follow up with my employees very frequently, just to make sure everything goes perfectly." Paulette was honest with her. "While it's great that you're so attentive, perhaps your staff is feeling micromanaged. Even if you're afraid that something might go awry, if you step back and let them carry out tasks on their own, you may ultimately see better results." Jackie took Paulette's advice. When she trusted her employees, things went much more smoothly.
All right, so you have to not just wait till your leader or your manager gains the trust, but you also as a leader would have to give them the opportunity and trust them. So here is to understand that micromanagement is not good. All right, so the next is a personal inventory. This is the major aspect of a leader, how a leader will carry his own inventory. And this is more important than your physical inventory. This is personal. Physical inventory is, of course, how you look and how you carry your gadgets and whatnot, how you dress. But we're talking about personal inventory here, how you would talk about goals, how you would talk about inhibiting confidence, how you would talk about friendliness, how you would talk about giving them the responsibility, and how you would talk about empowering them. Most importantly, giving them an opportunity to prove themselves. So this is about a personal inventory. There is a newer theory based on the findings of Cousins and Posner, but this is nothing but a good mix of how the Hersey-Blanchard model, the four-box model that we talked about, meshes with the transformational theory. So we took the transformational theory as a summary version of the great man theory and the trait theory. So that's the recent trend that's going on. And along with that, we would add to it the Hersey-Blanchard model, the four boxes that we do. And this is what paves way for the newer philosophy behind the leadership qualities, or the qualities required in a leader. So this new study by Cousins and Posner says that the leader would have to act in a certain way. So what are the challenges, or what are the requirements from a leader? How would he present himself? First of all, the leader would have to model the way, which means that, you know, actions are stronger than words. He would have to showcase how he walks the talk, right? So if you're expecting all the employees to come on time, you have to make sure that you are there before time. Otherwise, how would you, first of all, know, and how would they believe in you? So that's what model the way refers to here. Inspire a shared vision. This is once again about how you would talk about your vision as to it's their vision. The first question the leader should ask behind any implementation, behind any task, or behind any theory, or behind anything that he wants is, what's in there for me? Well, this would be a selfish thing, but he would have to ask this question by putting himself in the shoes of his employees, his teammates, as to, when I present this proposal, the first question that will come to my mind, which should actually be asked to your team, is, what's in there for me? What's my share? So you would have to think of the other side, of how the person at the receiving end will look at it. So this is how good leaders would do. I'm sure you all are very used to it, as to how or what the other person's perspective would be. Because you look at it this way, but what would he think of? If you can understand this aspect, then half of your qualities are, you know, taken care of, or half of your qualities are well taken, and you already have your influencing done and your followers. So that's what a shared vision is. And it goes all the way to the company vision. Challenge the process. This is nothing but think outside the box. So you cannot maintain a status quo all the time. You have to bring, but you need to back it up with solid research, solid findings. You cannot just challenge the process without having, you know, done your homework. But basically think outside the box, but not just for the sake of going outside the box, with some valid foundation. You would enable others to act. This is how you would build the trust. This is how you would bring them the opportunity to, give them the opportunity to prove themselves. And the last one is encourage the heart. Of course, you know, we talked about how you have to be friendly, how you have to be positive. And the major aspect, or a major component within a personal aspect of a leader, is how empathetic he is, how empathic is, or how much, you know, emotional he is, how much he would care for other people. How can people think that, you know, his day will go on without paying any attention to the sufferings around him? In the sense, you know, the things going down, going broke. So when it comes to receiving rewards, how would you share? How would you care for them? In Herzberg theory, I said the best way to motivate a person is by taking care of his physical needs. So feed him. The best way you can influence as a leader is to take care of their basic requirements, how it can be taken care of. You provide them the infra, the resources, but meals is one area, food is one area that you can really, take care of, and it will do wonders to your personal inventory. So encourage the heart. Heart is an important aspect of business when it comes to leadership. A good heart is infectious, as they say. So, it's a very good point to think about how your heart is, how would people feel, and how empathic you are, and so forth. Some additional requirements are or should be on your inventory. It's here. Take a look at it. If there is anything that rings the bell that you think may not measure, put the question through.
Yolanda wasn't sure why the morale of her employees was down. She definitely worked on enabling others to act and rewarded people taking the initiative. It was only when she went back to her training manual on leadership that
Slides
she
are not
realized
visible.
what
Your screen share is not
Yolanda
there.
entered into a meeting room with a new, more positive attitude. She started by showing enthusiasm and passion for their tasks at hand. She made sure to smile, and while of course she had to be an authority figure when it was realistic, she found ways to genuinely compliment others to show them that their work was appreciated. It was clear that the manual was right. A positive attitude is infectious.
One video
Yolanda wasn't sure
that I would like to refer to is take a look at how these CEOs behave. What do they do? And I may have mentioned in the past, the CEO of Southwest Airlines has some very inspirational behavioral, attitudes related videos that I want you all to watch to see how these leaders behave. All right, so in those, as a part of the study, we learned about 4 or 5 areas that you really need to build on. The first one is modeling the way. Remember, with the letter M in the study by Posner, which is nothing but a summary version of the transformational theory and the Hersey-Blanchard model, where we had those 4 blocks. So here, how would you model the way? You would be taken as a model by having some, different policies, some different behavioral indicators, and some different takes. So when something goes wrong, you take the credit or you take the blame. And when something goes good or something is achieved, give them the credit. This is as simple as it can get. And then the best way to also model your personality is by awarding your employees or giving them a praise in public, in open, not in public, but in an open area. And then some simple things that would work is ordering some prizes or any related trophies or colorful awards, certificates that you can give out. McDonald's is one organization that I would like to point here, how they would have a person join in the team as an assistant manager or an assistant team leader. There is no employee position below an assistant team leader or assistant manager. So this is how they bring people in. Why? Because they know how motivation works, how modeling the way is for their future leaders. For your information, McJob, for those of you who are familiar, usually students in other countries work at McDonald's because they have to pay their own bills. Unlike in other countries, like in the Middle East, there are people who are employed full-time to work in McDonald's. In other countries in South Asia, it's probably India, take for example, Singapore, it's all employees working for McDonald's. But in the United States, they are students. So there's a new word that has been added in the dictionary known as McJob, okay? Mech job is a job where there is no motivation. It seems to be a boring dead-end position. And this has been included in the dictionary. So this is not a good thing for McDonald's to know that people who work there have been termed as having a mech job, right? But however, it works out. And they have all ways of motivating them. At least one thing is taken care of, which is food. All right, that's the way you would model. That was an example. So here you have chosen your way, and then you have chosen your challenges, and then you are implying your philosophies that drive them. This is based on modeling the way. This is the first aspect of this is within modeling the way. So you would apply all the philosophies that you have learned that will drive them. Inspirational role model, having honesty, integrity, and deal with sorry, I don't know if you can hear that computer tone. So an inspirational model, we learned about how honesty is the biggest trait, and this is something to build on. There are a lot of people who are pathologically not truthful liars, okay? So there are ways of working on it. And anytime you lie, you know that you are wrong, and you know that it can be found out. So as a leader, you would always have to be honest. And there are many benefits of being honest. I don't want to get into that right now, but we have to move on. So honesty, integrity, and dealing with everyone in the same manner is one way to have your model showcase. You always have to listen to the criticism which comes under feedback. The most powerful influence you can have is often not try to influence someone. So this is the key. This is the basis for influencing. So don't try to influence for the sake of influence. Let them be influenced. So when people are aware that you are open to this suggestion, then they will come and give you suggestions.
Justin had a difficult time being a leader lately. Things had just felt monotonous and stale, and he was wondering why he'd ever wanted to be a leader in the first place. He sat down to talk with the leader of another group of employees to refocus. Amy listened to Justin, and then she asked him, "In the past, when you dreamed about becoming a leader, who inspired you?" Justin thought about this for a moment, and then he said, "I've always been inspired by Martin Luther King Jr. He was courageous, and he stood up for his beliefs." This got Justin thinking, and before he knew it, he had a list of ideas for how he could reinvigorate his staff and himself.
All right, so leadership is all about asking, and you can consult among yourself, among your colleague, among your interdepartmental leadership areas. This is the next aspect of the study by Posner, inspiring a shared vision. All right, so here we can focus a little bit on vision. So for those of you who knew that a strategy is always mission consistent, you also have to know that the leadership, the vision is of a leader. So anytime an organization has a goal, it is derived from the vision, and the vision comes from the leader. So how would you look at how to have an inspiring vision, or a vision that can be shared? You look at the other organization who gave you what they had hoped for. So if the vision by Apple was to provide very smart, interactive, user-friendly, and state-of-the-art equipment, and that's how they realized their vision, and that was related to their leader. For example, NASA gave you a trip to moon, right? And that was their mission. And then there were other people who wanted to give you something very sustainable, and they did. And like I said, Tata Motors gave you the cheapest car in the world. So what's your vision is what you would have to work on. And you would have to start out by declaring yourself as a visionary. And then you will look at how your vision can attain goals and how it can be a lighthouse. Lighthouse in the sense how it can guide, like a lighthouse guides ships to safety and keeps it. So how you can guide your employees, how you can guide them. So vision, when it comes to vision, it is like the second most important thing in an organizational context. First comes the mission, okay, and then is the vision. So how would you achieve your vision? How would you inspire? How would you make it a vision that can be shared? So this you would start out by writing, things and how you would like to have your vision communicated. And then the best way is to have a simple catchphrase, punchline as they call it. So it's better to have a line that spells out your vision, that clearly communicates. So you can think of those catchphrases, that have inspired you. So I can think of some, but I don't know. We talked about McDonald's. What is their catchphrase? Feeling better? I don't remember. And then is there a catchphrase for? Well, there are many. Okay, read and the force is with you. I have one on the screen. Okay, that's the vision for how I can make the mankind read and only read. So this has to be given out as a punchline. Your vision. You have to build your vision, like how people, did what they did. You have to ask yourself, what is my vision? What am I going to offer? And this is how you would, communicate your vision. And everyone as a team will work under your leadership on achieving the vision. Once the goals are realized, all your goals, vision comes next.
Bruce spoke passionately about his company's vision. He believed in their product, and he wanted his employees to feel the same enthusiasm. He'd been racking his brain for a way to instill this in his team as their manager. He got nice paper and printed out certificates. He also bought small prizes, like candies, bright-colored office supplies, and lottery tickets. He waited until Sean, one of his newer employees, used his own enthusiasm and passion to secure a new client. Bruce announced to the office, "I'd just like to take a moment to congratulate Sean on his new client. He used his enthusiasm for our product to sign them on. I'd like to give him this visionary award for exemplifying our vision."
All right. Challenging the process. This is the third aspect of the Posner study. Here I said, think outside the box. How would you challenge the process? You have to be a risk taker. You would be willing to experiment, learn from your mistakes. And we learned, how the qualities, the motivational theories help us in understanding the challenges that we have. So here you would have to be willing to question as to how, why, where, when. And then you would be willing to take the feedback from anywhere. Mostly the employee feedback is what you need. Here it says, usually the best or the most rational understanding comes from a diversified pool of positions. Like the lowest person can give you exactly what is wrong, lowest ranking in the sense, the lowest position where he's outside, like for example, a security guard can give you exactly what is wrong as they see it from their vantage points. So you have to be willing to challenge the process as well as be willing to have some knowledge, some understanding of how you would challenge it. Innovation is also known as paradigm shift. Have you heard of paradigm shift? How a set structure, would have to be challenged. So for that, if you could do something new, or if you could devise a new process, a new path, then you are an innovator, as they call you. But then you need to have a solid backing of how a new thing would be working before you would invest your money or the time. Your vision is your stepping stone towards your improvement. So like I said, what follows vision is the goal. And how to realize the goals, we have looked at it, especially the SMART acronym. So a vision is nothing but a goal that is strived for. So as an aspect of challenging the process, thinking outside the box, you would lay down your vision and then you would lobby for change. This is a major aspect of the changes that you see in an organizational context. Lobbying is a very, very controversial aspect of the business world. As you know, sometimes you can lobby for a change which could work to the detriment of public, of the employees, but it could work to the benefit of one person. So lobbying is also a very controversial issue. There are hundreds and millions and thousands of monies poured into these lobbying agents or lobbying firms. It's more prevalent in the United States, but there might be other countries which, move their lobbying efforts in the form of PR. They call it personal relationship, or however they can refer it to. So the lobbying for change is a process, not very easy. It usually has a budget, it usually has a scope, has some research, and some very strong backing.
David entered into his leader's office and asked, "I was wondering why you wanted to see me. I hope nothing's wrong." Caitlin said, "Absolutely not. Things are going wonderfully. You met your sales goals for this quarter, and as a whole, we're meeting the goals we set." Caitlin continued, "The best time to plan for the future is when things are going well. We need to challenge ourselves with another goal. I called you here today so that you could help make a measurable, attainable goal for our team." David was more than happy to pitch in and give his input. This helped Caitlin build a relationship with her employee, and challenging them with another goal also set an example for her staff too.
All right, so the best way to plan is when things are doing well, the things are going smooth, not when things start rolling down. That's what you would learn, as an aspect of bringing in innovation and challenging the process, thinking outside the box, and planning towards your goal. All right, enabling to act. This is the last stage or the ultimate goal for the Hersey model, where you would delegate information in such a manner that the employee can take the ball and run. So you need to have the trust that you were trying to build. You need to have the confidence. Your employees need to have the high level of competence, the confidence, and the motivation that they need to take it. So once the job is taken care of with the highest commitment by the employee, or it is a follower driven, then the ultimate goal of delegating is taken care of. The last stage in the 4-box model that we saw. And this is when the true leadership, is seen. And then the leader becomes, they call it incompetent. This is just a way of saying it from Peter's principle. All leaders rise to the level of incompetence. So once the leader has delegated the work, and then the process is on, a process is being committed by the employee, who becomes highly competent, and he delivers the project, then the leader has some other responsibilities to take care of, and the process is on autopilot. Although the word autopilot is not good when it comes to further leadership qualities. So the employee has been empowered. Encouraging growth in others, this is like, you would have to make sure that a person is not berated in public. Failure is the stepping stone of success, as they call. And sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. So the leadership qualities makes room for how to accept mistakes and how the failures can be learned through as a process of learning. So you set up a process of inquiry where the failures actually help you learn. And however you can motivate positively in public in general, there are different types of leaders. One is a very aggressive leader who would like to, have a meeting one-on-one. And there are passive leaders who would like to talk about it in public. And there are some leaders who would like to punish. Okay, although I think we talked about it in our last session, that's not allowed these days. So you have to be good at heart, creating a mutual respect. Be visible to your followers. Now, visible in the sense physically visible. If you are just staying in your room and not being visible, walking around or talking to employees, then you are out of the loop, as they say. You will remain out of the loop and people will be less motivated. Of course, you may have control mechanism, you may have checks that will check on and control the process, but being physically important is a very important aspect of your organizational architecture. This is actually designed as a part of the architecture where there are organizational structures, who's related to who. So that's how you have to be visible to who your team is. And then as you move on in delegating, the trust is built. And when you respect, interpersonal relationship is built, it's employee driven with a high commitment and high competence. The respect is built and the trust is there. And once you have the trust, then you know that the project will be delivered. And then the leader knows that he can rely on his employee, and the followers are also aware of the fact that they are reliable.
Adam worked on building respect with his staff from the beginning. He stopped by Catherine's cubicle and asked her, "How are things going?" Catherine sighed and said, "I've been trying to be innovative about this next product launch, like you said, but I'm really struggling with finding a new angle." Adam said, "Is that the same one due by the end of the week?" "Yes. Do you think you could get me some help with brainstorming?" Adam assigned another team member to collaborate with Catherine that he knew excelled at fresh ideas and innovation. Because he showed respect to his team members, they trusted him to let them know how projects were going, good or bad. The problem was addressed in a quick and effective manner.
All right, so trust would be the ultimate level synonymous to delegation. All right, module 9 deals with encouraging the heart. Okay, so this is once again the last step in, second last step in the study by Posner, where you have to pay attention to your heart. Now this is something very, very soft, non-technical, but seldom leaders pay attention to their heart. By heart, you need to be good at heart. And what do you need to do here? This has nothing to do with your work. This has a lot to do with your interpersonal skills. How you would encourage, having a heart full of goodies. So it starts out by treating your employees physically, physiologically, how you would offer them a free lunch, and how you would share your bonuses or your benefits, and how when a big project is being undertaken or being moved ahead, how you would reward your employee. So this is a type of leadership that works, better than other areas, and seldom people do it. So a leader would have to be the first person who would spend out taking his followers for a cup of coffee. After hour meetings is very common in some cultures where people work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, but on Friday they make sure that the same group of people who work day and night will go and sit in a social area and then have a social time. Okay, they call it the social hour. So that's very important. If that's a possibility in your culture, in your organization, in your setting, do that. Even better would be to have an employee picnic organized on the weekend, the whole day, wherein you can bring in, you can incorporate the families, because that has a good impact. And everyone understands a person and his background, where he's coming from. So empathy is here, the need of the hour. So the heart relates to heartfelt feeling for your employees and to have a good heart. So you would share rewards, celebrate accomplishments, however you can, okay? There is no organization that cannot believe in social hours and survive. So you can have all kinds of parties, all kinds of celebrations. Some organizations spend more time in celebrations than actually work, but that's the way they look at it. So if there is a team of 20 people, then there are 20 days in the year where a lunch is celebrated over a birthday, and there is a big cake bought by employees. So bigger, very top corporations like Google and Microsoft or other companies have a lot of social happenings. So this is the fun part. I don't have to say much about it here.
Eric's team worked all quarter, sometimes pulling late nights, to meet all their goals. Eric's supervisors saw this and they rewarded him with a bonus for a job well done as a leader. Eric was proud of himself, but he was equally proud of his staff. While it wasn't necessarily to split the bonus with all his employees, he did come up with a way to reward them for their hard work. Eric called his team together and said, "I'd like to announce that this quarter we didn't just meet our goals, we exceeded them. Because we all did such a fantastic job, I'm having lunch catered on Friday. Just bring your appetites." Eric made sure not to plan anything pressing or important that day so that his employees could celebrate and enjoy a job well done.
All right, I've actually seen a manager have a loudspeaker, to bring about the mood. All right, influencing skill. This is the most important aspect of leadership. How to be an influencer, how to be an influencer in your own life, and how to influence your employee. So once you can have employees influence, that's when you have attained a true leadership position. All right, so the best leader is who can influence somebody and make it look like it's their own idea. So many a time the leaders like to take the credit. Would have to be a very, very stupid act for a leader to take the credit for his team. Okay, otherwise, if he wishes to have the credit for his own self, for his own progress, or for his own promotion, then he would lose his team, not just his job. So as long as one of his team member wins, it's a victory for the leader, because he has to understand that he made this happen. So he created the environment that allowed this success. So this is very important for us to always give credit to others, not just in a leadership role, but in any role. You have to give credit to the employees. And that's how you became a leader, because it's your environment. You created the environment. So that's about influencing skills. And a lot has to do with empathy. And empathy starts out with having a repo, a good repo, a reputation, and somebody, or have a repo refers to having sameness or a likeliness of you having. So your personality is what builds your repo. And as long as the repo clicks, because it usually happens the first time, it's just like the love at first sight. So once you have a repo, then you have a reputation, and then you have a relationship with your employee, and that's how we'll get to your influencing and persuasion skills. So let's take a look at what the master of all talks about persuasion. As you can see, this guy here is Aristotle, and he came up with this theory of ethos, pathos, and logos some thousands of years ago. But if you look at it closely, this is nothing but what we have been doing. And obviously, he did not attend any session on soft skills, but he did work hard and get to these three things. And these three things forms the basis of influencing, the art of persuasion, because you have to be able to persuade, influence to be a good leader. So Ethos here talks about how to persuade people using your character. This is how credible you are. Pathos relates to your emotions. So we know what emotional intelligence is. He did not know, but he came up with pathos. He says the leader should always appeal to their emotions. Try to be able to manage their emotions and also control your own emotions. So this is what we do in emotional intelligence. So if a leader starts out his goal or his speech saying that I care for you all, then you know that you're trying to appeal. And then Legos relates to your intellect, personal intellect, how you can solve the problem, how you can persuade to their mind. So here you have to make sure that you start out with ethos and you have pathos, and then go on to reaching to their critical levels of thinking. But at the same time, not lose ethos. And a lot has to do with your own honesty, standing. You don't want to lose your standing. For example, Bill Clinton was a great leader. I think the United States prospered in his time, and he did a lot of things that nobody else came close to. In fact, there was a time when the entire leaders of Europe got together and congratulated Bill Clinton for running the United States better than any country in the world. But however, he lost his ethos, okay, his character. He lost it. And then He could have been an even better leader if he had appealed using the logo. This is just an example. So how would you influence? You would reciprocate. Reciprocate is you give something before, after which you can ask for something. So if the leader has done something before, then you would definitely expect people to do it for you. So reciprocity is a law in many states. And then you have to be committed. You have to show your authority. You have to validate anytime you have a situation or a follower coming with a situation. You have to validate either it is his mistake or his positive aspect. Give him credit. And then friendliness is the social grace relating to emotional cohesion. So that's about, you know, a background.
Sarah was nervous about going to see her boss, Robin, about a request. Robin was stern, strict, and always carried an air of authority. Sarah lightly knocked on Robin's door and was invited inside. After some small talk, Sarah cut to the chase. Robin, I think that our client would benefit from holding our next meeting at a more casual location. I know the rule is that we utilize offices, hotels, and other professional places. However, I see this particular client being more suited to a casual, friendly dining spot. Robin listened and said, You've given this a lot of thought. Follow through with the idea. While Robin was a strict authority figure by nature, she always knew when to be flexible to the rules.
All right, as you can see, the boss is real bossy. You know, he looks a little grumbled. But however, the follower, the lady went in and requested for a social requirement. And although he seems to be fixated, he did have room for flexibility, and he gave an okay for, you know, the social event, because he understands how hard the employee has worked, and this was the time for him to acknowledge, show her the trust, you know, that he has in her, and how he has delegated the project to her. All right, so the last topic is setting goals. We talked about this. I said a vision is, you know, nothing without the goal. And then a goal is derived from the vision. So a vision can only be realized once you have the right goals realized. And we talked about how the acronym SMART helps in realizing the goals. A very simple acronym. And this is how you would get to strategic planning, strategic management. Once the goals are met at a unit level, it goes up to the tactical level, then it goes up to the functional level, and then it's at the strategic level. So once the goals are met, the vision is close to be realized, and the vision is of a visionary, the leader, which completes the leadership vision or the leadership position that was taking
Sophia
place.
presented her goals to her supervisor, Thomas, and she said, What do you think of the plan that we have laid out? Thomas said, I think that your goal of updating our technology is specific, measurable, attainable, and timed. However, the only thing that is unrealistic about the goal is how much it is going to cost. Sophia said, I was hoping that you could help me brainstorm ways to come up with the revenue. Thomas nodded. In the past, we've tried new ways of increasing sales to pay for equipment that we needed. But given the time frame, I feel like our best bet is a fundraiser. They included the fundraiser idea in the final goal, making sure once again that the goal was SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timed.
All right, SMART goals was
Sophia-
introduced to you from time management beginning. So I guess that's about it for the leadership. And I think we're also done with our entire series of webinars relating to the topics. We started out with time and with leadership. So I would have to say, guys, it has been a pleasure, although it was a one-way, but I do feel the relationship that we have developed. And I have my information. Anytime you have the need to reach out, feel free. Look out for the future announcements from AMP as to what the next step is. But I'm pretty much done with my topics, but I'm sure there is an additional session for Q&A and for any leftovers, and for you all to get to where you are and honor you with the certificate. So I hope it was an enjoyable session, but I'm still available. Anytime you need to reach out in the future, feel free. And I would like to once again thank you all. It has been a pleasure, and I'm open now for questions on relating to this topic, and look out for the future announcements. Thank you all, and Ms. Samira, back to you.
Thank you, Shah Sir, for today's lecture on leadership and influence. It is our pleasure to be able to learn from an expert trainer like you in these sessions. It was indeed a very pleasurable experience with you in these sessions. So let us move on to the Q&A round now. And I see that we got very few questions today. So the first question I would read out is from Mr. Atif Zedi. He's asking, should a leader sometimes become a team member to understand the psyche and the working culture of whole team?
Yes, absolutely. You have to be empathic, as I said. You have to come down. So we talked about friendliness, social graces. So a leader would always have to be flexible and come down and make it look like he's one among them. So good leaders, they always come down. Recently, there was a picture in the social area where you saw Bill Gates standing in the line to buy a sandwich. So that's how you have to come down and think of it, you know, in their terms. This is how enabling a follower is taken as, and this is how listening to them is best done. So that's a good question, and absolutely you have to come down. Next, please.
Yes. So the next question is from Syed Amir Sadat Saab. He's asking, what type of leader is a teacher?
What type of leader is a teacher? Well,
Yes.
the teacher is the best leader. He delegates information. So whatever it takes to delegate information, whether it's telling, selling, participating, you have to be able to, you know, deliver information. That's the last stage. So a teacher is a teacher. I don't know if he could be any specific type of leader, but a teacher is a teacher and a teacher is a leader. That's his way of giving information. And his leadership would last a long time, a lifetime. Next, please.
Surely. Thank you. The next question is from Sheikh Irshad Saab. What sort of leader do we need to guide the community?
What sort of leader you need to guide the community? You have to be the type of leader that the community needs, which means that if the community is lacking skills, then that's what you have to take up. If the community is impoverished, then you have to provide them the means. In a situation like this, there are communities, your communities, who are suffering. So you have to come up to their values, and you have to think of long term. One suggestion that I could give is every leader would have to be a social person, and he would have to establish social institutions among his community, which means that every person in his community should be delegated in such a way that he can help one person who is in need of either monies, food, or knowledge. Okay, so look at yourself as a social institution. Next, please.
Okay, so the next question is, please elaborate comparison between a leader and a boss.
Compassion between a leader. Well, leader is taken as somebody who would order things, but a compassionate leader or a leader who is compassionate will look at how to influence them and how to work on their attitude, how to work on their commitment, and how to work on their flexibility. Okay, so these are the differences. You have to be an influencer as opposed to a leader. So being a leader is not good. There are many leaders who are, you know, who are having negative traits. Like Steve Jobs, for example, had a negative trait that was brought about later because he used to punish his employees. So you have to be a leader who can influence and who can work on influencing their attitude, their motivation, and their behaviors. Okay. Otherwise, you are known as a psychopath leader, which also exists. Next, please.
Yes, the next question is, what is the right age from where we can train our children? Can you please elaborate on that? It's asked by Mr. Nabi Rasool Saab.
Sure. See, everyone is a leader. And then the one proof that you have as a leader is if you are a parent, then you already have your leadership qualities that are being evolved. You have to exhibit leadership qualities to your children. So it has to start from the very early age. And then the great man theory helps you in understanding this, how you can be a great man to your children. So it has to start from as early as possible. And the first leader is your parent. The first leader is the parent who has children. And that's who the children would look for as to follow. Next, please.
Yes. The next question is, who's a good leader, born or transformed one?
Well, there are leaders who are born, and if you don't have the blessing, you can build in your qualities to become a leader. But a good leader, if you ask me, I may not be right, is a person who has been transformed because he has worked his way through and he has learned his way through to become a good leader. A person who doesn't learn to be a good leader would have some deficiency in him. Next, please.
Yes. So the next question is, does age matter in leadership? Because sometimes people say good leaders are those who had more experience than the other ones.
No, age is just a number. There has been leaders who exhibited great leadership as early as 16, from 16, for example, many. So age is just a number.
Okay.
Next, please.
Yes. So I think I'll just read out few feedbacks for you, sir.
Okay.
So I'll just combine it to one. So this feedback is from Miss Indira. Dear sir, we have come across a great leader, Mr. Shah Siddiqui, sir. Thank you. The sessions you had made us to understand is in a vivid ways is marvelous. So I was bound to take this feedback for you. So the next question I'll just read out for you is from Mehraj Ali Ansari, sir. He's asking, can someone become good leader without good communication skills?
Communication is a requirement. Would be very difficult to be a good leader. And unless you communicate, you would be known as a psychopathic leader. So you have to communicate, and it's very easy to communicate. Next, please.
Okay, so the next question is from Aisha. In case the leader is unable to fulfill the expectations and needs, should we replace him?
Yes, the leaders are always replaced. There are many instances where there was a good leader, and then after he left, a wrong leader took over and the company went down. So there is a term called emergency. Before the company gets into an emergency situation, the leader needs to be replaced. And many a times, a company goes down only because of bad leadership, no other reason but a bad leadership. So an organization, a nation can go down because of a bad leader.
Truly, sir.
Next, please.
So we are done with the Q&A round. I highly appreciate everyone asking their questions and giving their feedbacks. Thank you, Shasa, for answering the questions today. Your sessions are so well explained, mashallah. And I'm sure our participants are finding your lectures extremely helpful and interesting too. It is never enough to be able to express our gratitude to you and to all our attendees for making these sessions a wonderful learning experiences for all of us. We highly appreciate you all for taking out your precious time from your busy schedules for these sessions. I would now request Saeed Saab to talk about the LMS and assessments for a few minutes. Over to you, Saeed Saab. I can see that there were a few questions related to it, and one question is open in the Q&A box also for you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Humaira, and thank you, Shah Saab. And yeah, so basically, the LMS that we have been providing with, these series of webinars for phase 1 and phase 2. I'm sure most of you are now well versed with that learning management system. And for those who are not well versed or those who have queries, so let me just share my screen and share and then show the process of signing up and then signing in. So this is the link that has been provided to you, ampskills.swifthcm.com. And once you sign up, okay, you sign up with your email ID and a password. So I've already signed up with the demo user here. And once you log in this way, okay, you should be able to see a dashboard. So this dashboard will contain all the courses. So right from the coaching and mentoring, business acumen, business writing, these are all past courses that have already been covered. And today's lecture, okay, today's webinar that which was on leadership and influence, we have just uploaded that course as well for you to take. So for if you haven't taken the previous courses, the course files are not available, but the assessment is still open. So please feel free to take the assessment by just clicking on begin, and then once you take the assessment, you would be able to get a certificate at the end of the entire webinar series. So the course content for leadership and influence has already been uploaded here. So when you click on begin, so you would see that the course content would appear like this. So there's an introduction that comes in about what are the different modules that have been covered so far in leadership and influence. And then the second would be the e-learning module by itself. So this e-learning module is basically it is like an advanced version of PPT, the PowerPoint, but this is basically the e-learning file which bookmarks and tracks your progress. So you can take this e-learning module at your will. Okay, so this talks about the various aspects what Shasab has just covered. And once you're done with that, there is an assessment that comes up. So this assessment right now contains 20 questions. So take those 20 questions. Okay, click on take assessment, and you will be able to see the instructions here, and click on start and then get started. So you have to choose the right answer. Each question will be presented with 4 different options. So just pick up one right answer, and then you would be proceeded to the next question. Okay, and once you are done with all those 20 questions, okay, so your score will be displayed, and if you score 80%, okay, of the total marks, only then you would be eligible to take the certificate. So like this, you would be presented with 20 questions. So there is a timer against each question, and at the end of it, okay, you would be seeing your results. Okay, so I'll not be taking all the questions now, but quickly, I'll show you, and after the assessment, there is a recommended reading list that has been provided by Shasab. So, you can just, go through that assessment, the recommended reading list as well. For the previous courses, I've been getting a lot of requests asking us to open up the courses, but unfortunately we cannot, because there is a time limit of 1 week for each course. So we have already given more than a week for certain courses, okay, but the assessment is open. So even this course that you're seeing right now, the leadership and influence, will be available for 1 week. Okay, so please make sure that you're finishing it off by next week. Okay, and then the assessment also can be taken. And I believe the next Wednesday, okay, we have the graduation ceremony. So the certificates would be released based on the criteria about how good you have, if you have attended all the sessions, and then also you need to complete your assessments and also get 80% of the scoring marks. Only then you would be eligible for the certificate, which will be enabled next Wednesday in the graduation ceremony. Okay, and yeah, so one common question that I'm in fact getting is, every e-learning module, okay, that I showed to you also has an internal assessment within it. Okay, so please make sure that you're taking the assessment, okay, which is good. That internal assessment is good. Okay, but then there is an assessment outside what I showed to you on the course page. This is the course page, and on this, okay, you would see an assessment. So you need to complete this assessment, okay, in order to get your certificate. Your internal assessment, what you see in the course, that's for your purpose, that's for your better understanding. But then we have compiled 20 questions in each topic, and then we have presented out here. Yeah, so this is it. And if you haven't taken the assessments yet, okay, for the rest of the courses, please make sure that you go ahead and finish it off before the graduation ceremony. Okay, so this like this way, like for coaching and mentoring, you will not see the file, you will not see the course, but then you will see the assessment. Okay, so this is it from my side. If there are any further questions, okay, you can email us, and then we will in fact get back to you on that. Over to you, Amira.
Thank you. Shukriya Saeed Bhai for your valuable information and help with the LMS. Your guidance and efforts are so highly appreciated. To all the attendees, it is always a pleasure to have you all on board for our session today. Attending these sessions will always benefit you all in your career paths. AMP in collaboration with Reed Academy and Swift e-learning services has come up with this soft skill webinar series phase 2 for the second time. And so I highly appreciate you all attending the sessions. So keep joining us in these sessions. Keep yourself updated through our website. That is www.ampUSA.org/pastwebtalks. If you wish to be a part of AMP and its community work, you can simply log on to www.ampindia.org/joinamp. In case you have any queries, feel free to write to us at office@ampusa.org. I repeat, office@ampusa.org. Wishing you all a very happy Eid al-Adha. May this Eid bring good health, happiness, and prosperity to you and your family. Eid Mubarak. I am Humaira, your host, signing off from today's session now. Stay home, stay safe, and keep learning. Take care. Goodbye for now. Allah Hafiz.